Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, thank you for joining me. I'm Katie and I'm really excited. Dena Tollefson, whose channel I will leave in the description, has set us another challenge. The theme of this challenge is called Growing Garden, and I was quite excited about this one. So as you'll know at the start of the video, there were some pictures of a camellia tree. Well, they're usually bushes, but we've kind of got a tree in our garden. And we moved to where we're living now about 12 months ago. And one of the things that struck me most while we were looking at the house was this camellia tree. It was in full bloom when we were viewing it, and it just looked absolutely stunning. And we've seen it throughout the year. Well, we've seen it throughout a year now, and it's just like this gorgeous constant in the garden. It's got this really deep, rich foliage, and then in autumn it has seeds. So, well, they're like fruits actually, and it attracts all the birds in. It offers shelter, and it seems to have sustained my dog. When we had him as a puppy, it was about the time where all of the fruit and the seeds were falling from the tree, and every time we had to take him out, he'd pick one of them up and then he'd run off with it. I mean, luckily, camellias are non-toxic to dogs, so we just let him crack on. However, the funny thing is, now it's come into full bloom with the flowers. He absolutely loves eating those too. He's a funny thing. Anyway, let's talk about the materials before I talk about the picture. So I'm using the natural dyes and natural inks made by my wonderful friend Mandy, and I will leave a link to her Etsy store in the description below. I'm not sponsored or affiliated or anything, she's just a good friend of mine, and I like to support my friends really, and she's a lovely, genuine person. She's got some gorgeous things on there. The paper I'm using, which seems quite fitting, is the botanical paper, and it's 300 GSM, 50% cotton, and I went for a 50% cotton because I just wanted that nice texture which would take the ink quite nicely, whereas the cottony side of it as well was just nice to get that watercolour effect. Now, I did the initial outline using the black oak gall ink, and I absolutely love it, and it's so good, it just stays put. You can dilute it and use it to create tones, but I like to use it neat. It's like painting with the richest espresso you can think of. I used my glass dip fountain pen and just went to town on all of the details because that's just what I like to do. And this challenge allowed me to explore different botanical textures. It's not really a forte of mine, to be honest, and I was actually glad to be able to have a chance to just give it a try. So the figure is, I'm going to say she's a personification of this tree, and she's just sitting underneath it, quite happily relaxing with a cup of tea. And the reason I've done it with a cup of tea is I believe you can make tea from the camellia tree. Now that's just made this tree even better for me. I might have to research as to how I can make tea from this, but I might give it a try and just hope it doesn't poison me, but I don't think it will. So obviously now I've got the detail long gone in this picture, but the colours I'm using to add to the tree itself and the grass below was the yellow made with ragwort, and the bloom on the tree was done with the hibiscus, which is like a purpley red colour, but it smells amazing. Honestly, it smells like medicine. In fact, all of these little dyes smell amazing because they've all been made out of natural materials. So I had a bit of an influence from an illustrator by the name of K. Nielsen, and their work, it's sort of very much in tone with the Art Nouveau. They did illustrations for children's stories, like old fairy tales about trolls and monsters, and there's just something so incredibly charming about their work. and I thought that would be absolutely perfect and translate well for the style I wanted to go with on here. The female figure is very simple. I hadn't gone too overly detailed. I wanted all of the textures mainly to be on the grass and on the tree, and that's something that's sort of reflected within Kay Nielsen's work, so I'm really glad that I had that inspiration to draw on, really. So now it's time to start just making the outlines on things and areas a little bit more profound. I didn't want to use the black ink, the black oak gall ink, on the actual outline of the tree, and I went in there with a different shade of the dye. The dye I used was green grey, which was made from French marigold, and that smelt amazing too, and that's just a little bit darker and just adds a bit more contrast because I just wanted to draw all of them leaves in there, and I really wanted to keep it quite rich, just like the pigments on the tree, really. I also went and filled in each leaf as well, and as subtle as these are, and remember the actual colours I'm using here, they're actually dyes for dyeing clothes rather than drawing and painting. They layered up really well. They do behave a little differently to ink, and they take a little longer to dry, but they smell amazing. Have I mentioned how nice they smell? So for our female, I'm going to call her Camellia because she's under a camellia tree as well. I thought I would replicate that gorgeous colour in the blooms in her hair, and I just went in there with my glass dip pen and just added the strands in, and whilst I was using the hibiscus colour, I thought it would be nice just to add some additional details into those flowers as well. For the tree trunk, I used the dye that was labelled as Mandy, and again, it's quite similar to the light oak gall ink that I used, but it's just a little bit cooler, and I think that just made a nice contrast there. Just to add some detail to the clothing and the folds in her dress, I used the oak gall ink, and I also filled in the middle bits of the flowers on the grass with the hibiscus colour because I just wanted them to stand out a little bit more. I really do enjoy using these inks, and I'm so lucky to have somebody who I know who makes them and keeps me updated when they've made a new dye or a new ink, or if they've made a new batch, and it's so nice to be able to use such a traditional material as well. I don't know, there's something very wholesome about using it, and I picked these materials because it just seemed the absolute perfect combination with the challenge that Dena Tollefson set for us. Anyway, we are pretty much all done. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and let me know in the comments if you have. I just want to say a massive thank you again to Dena for setting these challenges. I think during these weird times at the moment, it's actually really nice just to have a challenge to keep us all distracted, and I'm enjoying my garden at the moment, so this has just been perfect. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, why not hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care, guys. Bye.